Why did the blind man fall down the well? Because he couldn't see that well. Today, I would like to talk to you about thumb technique. Alright, so thumb technique really is at its core just using your thumb on the strings, right? And there's a couple of ways to approach this in the right hand, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And the first way to approach it is just simply tapping, right? So you can use it for a bunch of different things. I use it when I'm tapping. I either use it as like a rhythmic thing, or I'm trying to reach a note that I can't quite hit. A really good example is in The Trouble with Doorways off of Geffen first album. There's this groove that I wind up hitting, and it goes something like this. Notice with those first two chords, I'm playing these half-crossed chords on the treble side, and then just bringing my thumb over to hit on the bass side with like these rhythmic slaps, right? And I've got it's this weird groove in 17, so I have a simplified version of that on the exercises that you can find on my Patreon page. Another example, when, as I said, when I'm reaching for notes that I can't quite hit with my left hand, if I'm playing with my right hand, is a body English part where, you know, we've got this big epic riff and I'm holding down chords and playing the bass line. The bass line winds up becoming... Oop, like that. Right, but I'm playing chords on my right hand too. So I've got to use my thumb to hit these two top notes and just kind of reach over and grab them while my left hand does a little more intricate stuff. And you'll notice the first pass that I made, I kind of did this like little run like that, and I'm using my thumb again because my right hand is holding down chords on the treble side, and that's really the only finger I got. And as long as I got something to go a little bit higher and something a little bit to go a little bit lower, I'm pretty much set. And so in order to achieve this technique, I kind of make a play on anchoring. I've always found it very important to be connected to the stick. When I'm playing notes, I find that it vastly improves my accuracy than doing something like I find this to be very clumsy and inaccurate. So, like in the second example, or even in the first, instead of being connected to the stick by my thumb, I pivot and stay connected on my fingers that are fretting on my right hand and reach over. I'm hitting kind of with the side of my thumb here. And then, you know, I get away from the thumb technique and I go into uncrossed and then have fully crossed, and then I go back to it. But I find this to be a tremendously useful technique in a lot of contexts, you know, like in whole body headbang. You know, it's not usually the focus of a technique, or of the focus of a part, but it allows me to play things that you know, would be more difficult to play or just downright impossible to play without it. Another tapping technique that involves the thumb is an old one that Steve Adelson taught me that he called the crab. And it's basically using the range of the higher bass strings to mix with the treble strings to kind of fill out arpeggios. And you can get some pretty interesting sounds that way. And if you play things that are within those strings, like inside of those string combinations, so you're not mixing anything up, you can get some pretty neat and like wide sounding lines. Another thing that you can do is strum, and again, you're going to want to find your anchor point and then bring your fingers over to, or your thumb over, and you're just taking it off the side of the stick, kind of angling your fingers a little bit higher and raking them across the strings. And this is a technique that I use in a song off my solo album, Jerisa, and it goes like this. One thing that you'll notice is that I mix up the taps and the strums. When I'm tapping with my right hand, I'm either not strumming or I'm also tapping with my left hand to keep everything even. Tapping and strumming at the same time is just not really something I'm good at. It's a very difficult thing to do. I'm sure somebody like Bob Culbertson could pull it off no problem, but it's just not something I'm proficient in, and you can make the taps sound pretty much like the strums, and you should be striving for that anyway, making the tapping and the strumming sound identical. One other place that I strum is in the song I Am the Lamp That Stomps off of Geffen first album. And it just comes, I'm playing two different parts. I'm playing this kind of guitar part, which is why I need the strum. Like that, and then I throw on some distortion and like a big hall, like echoey reverb, and play this like crazy chordal part over the top. Right? And those are obviously two different parts, and I want to keep the guitar part sounding as guitar-y as possible, and it's not going to come from doing this. So I want to keep the thumb strum. If you are finger muting, you can also use your thumb to pluck the string that you're muting and get a very nice rounded, almost upright bass sound out of it. So you take your finger and you place it basically on the saddle of the note, or of the string that you want to play, and that will provide a nice muted sound. You can hear the difference. And then rather than tapping, if you want to round out the sound even more, all you got to do is use your thumb to pluck the string. So that's pretty much all of the techniques that I've found with the right hand thumb. There's not a ton to it. It's not a very advanced technique, but it really does help open up a lot of possibilities, and it really widens the reach between your two hands. With the left hand, I've seen some pretty interesting stuff. I'm not good at any of it yet, and I don't feel comfortable, putting unfinished thoughts out there. I want more time to kind of like really study and figure out what's going on in the left-hand thumb technique. And I will come back to the topic once I have. But you know, I've seen something like Bob Culbertson use his left-hand thumb on low bass side notes, and then be getting like chords or lines up there and playing a bass line and either like a melody line or a chord line on the bass side with his left hand. And I've also seen there's a Japanese player named Satoru Tuji. I hope I pronounced that right, and Satoru, I'm sorry if I have not. Where he does some pretty wild stuff. He'll either kind of use it as a bar or as another finger to tap and do stuff like this. While he does, you know, things in different locations besides that on the stick. And like I said, I'm not good at those yet, but once I get a little practice under my belt, I will come and revisit that topic. So that's pretty much it. Hope this has been helpful. Give it a shot. Check out the exercises on my Patreon. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot. Keep exploring.